Comic Timing is member supported by listeners like you over at patreon.com/comic timing. We thank you so much for your continued support of the show. For as little as $1 a month, you get behind the scenes access, including some early extra points like manga reviews by Chris Nadas, as well as some diaries, some other behind the scenes audio and video whenever we can provide it, and whatever other goodies we can throw in there. So we thank you very much for your continued support of the show at patreon.com/comic timing. Hey there, folks. My name's Ian Levitstein, and welcome to episode 245 of Comic Timing. 5 away from 250, and it only took us 20 years. How about them apples? Yeah! Regular releases this entire time. We swear. We swear. Brent Cassina, we swear. We swear.
Hello, Ian. I know how to get the big D.
Vitamin D, damn it. And that was pre-show. We are not bringing that into this episode. Enough said. But yes, I do know. It's called vitamin D tablets. You take them once a day, and then all of a sudden you go to the doctor, and then she tells you have normal vitamin D levels, and everything is fine. But yes, I work from home. Enough said. How you doing, Brad? How's life?
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Returning. She never left. She's been here the entire time. Chris. Hi, Chris. You're muted.
Damn it. Yeah, no, I always mute to make sure that I don't like blow my nose and do anything else ridiculous on these calls. Because not Raph.
Nice.
I'm not even referencing anything. It's just if there's going to be a weird noise on a podcast, it's going to be Raph.
I fully endorse that and appreciate it, and it's usually the case. We're all used to it. Yeah. That's how life works, you know?
Yeah, we're going to say, I don't go out much, so I am not getting the D as much as I should.
Vitamin D. We're discussing vitamin D here. We want to make that perfectly clear. It's a vitamin. That's not even a real vitamin, but we call it vitamin
all
D.
over your body.
All over your body. And
face, neck, and chest.
And speaking of which, he's on an episode from the start of an episode, and knock on wood, there's no weird mic shit, and we could see him the way he's supposed to. Donovan Morgan Grant, welcome back.
Should have taken that super serum. Bucky's full of shit.
My
favorite line in that movie.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, and we will be discussing the Captain America Brave New World movie in a little bit, just to give our spoiler-filled thoughts on that. Also throw in there a little bit of Daredevil talk and Invincible and a bunch of other stuff and stuff we've been reading, because I've actually been reading comic books. What's that? I've been reading comic books and it's a comic book show? Ain't that madness? But one way to read comic books is to actually get them in your hands. And it's been hard to do that over the last couple of months, what with Diamond going under and missing a bunch of shipments to stores. And when they do show up, some of them are damaged, and then you can't do anything about it because they're really not accepting anything, which really hasn't changed that much since they weren't bankrupt, but still a little bit harder to do even now. Bankruptcy auction just concluded a little while ago, actually about a day before we recorded this. It officially wrapped up, and it is official that Alliance Entertainment, out of your state of Florida, Brent, are now going to be the owners of Diamond Distributors, and including the stuff that we thought were going to be purchased by other companies from the looks of it. So they are acquiring Diamond Select Toys and Collectibles. Chris and I discussed that on the Toy Fair episode, where they were going to wind up, and they are going with the rest of the company, as well as Alliance Game Distributors and possibly Diamond UK. And Diamond Books. We're not 100% on whether or not this is going to include Diamond UK, but the original bid from the Canadian distributor that was looking to purchase both the game distributor and Diamond UK looks like it has been rejected in favor of this one. So yeah, it looks like, Diamond has itself a new owner, and physical comics continue to have a way of being distributed in a fashion similar to the way that they were before, if Alliance actually gives a shit about comics, which we're not even 100% they do. Because
there's also a new article on Bleeding Cool I was reading before I did the dishes tonight that Image was kind of objecting to the sale because they have something in their secret classified contract that they release partial thing of that there's like some clause that they have to
like approve it.
They got to be paid a fee before they approve whoever buys them and moves their distribution, I think, because they have an exclusive with Diamond per their say so they have to approve whoever is going to distribute them exclusively if they're going to hold them to their contract.
Well, that's interesting because Image literally doesn't even distribute via Diamond anymore. Like they
maybe it's not exclusive, but whatever contract they had with Diamond, they're like, this is still in place, and we have to approve of whoever.
Interesting. Yeah,
you can't just give our distribution agreement with your old company to a new one without our say so.
Sure. Yeah.
And some money attached.
You are correct about the Image thing. I just brought up the article. Image Comics objects to Diamond Comics distributors bankruptcy deal and reveals their contract with Diamond. Well, most of it. They challenged the bankruptcy deal, disputes the proposed $25K cure amount, claiming Diamond owes much more. So that may be part of it, is that they, quite frankly, owe Image a lot more money than the settlement looks like it's going to be, winding up at. But I guarantee you there's going to be some sort of actual straight up settlement to make this go away, and Alliance will, be the owners outright within the next couple of months. It's just this type of shit happens all the time with bankruptcy deals where, one person objects, they then have to go back to the drawing board on money more than anything else, and then once the money is settled, then they move on from there. So
I'm not sure who Alliance is specifically, but I'm kind of wondering now, like, I don't think Diamond would have gone other had it not been for COVID and Marvel and Penguin setting up their own, not Marvel, but Lunar and Penguin setting up their own distribution houses. That certainly didn't help things either.
Definitely not.
It just shows how slim the margins are on comic books. So I'm kind of amazed that all these other comic book stores are still in business, but I guess the other revenue streams are a necessary thing, So I wouldn't be surprised if this company is like, we're done distributing comic books. We'll get rid of whatever we got. And just keep the toy entities and stuff like that. It seems to be a little bit more lucrative.
Well, for now, it's lucrative to do all of it because, as you said, multiple revenue streams. That's what Alliance is looking to do as well with this. Is that they're looking to basically boost their revenue streams. Up until this point, they owned a Funko-esque company that makes these figures. I'll try to get the name of them right now as I'm looking this up. But they look a lot like Funko, but they're not. And that's one of the reasons why they wanted to buy at least the game distributors, because they already had a foot in the door with comic book stores and collectible stores. So this just basically includes that in many different ways. So right now, again, everything's getting bought for the most part. The Beat had actually a really good article with a interview with Bruce Ogilvie on the Diamond purchase, specifically saying this wasn't about the comics. Comics are a part of it, but it wasn't in particular just because of comics, because obviously not, it's a natural extension of who we are. We sell Funkos, Hasbro, Legos, Mattel. It's a very small part of our business, 50 million of our $1.1 billion. But it's a big leapfrog into an area there. It's either go big or go home. It's the same amount of work buying a $50 million company as it is a $300 million company. So you might as well put your revenue in a $300 million company and go from there. And there's more to be said there as well. But I mean, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this, and whether or not you think this might actually be a net positive or somewhere in the middle for the comic book industry right now. As I guess it's a good thing that Diamond's still going to exist. I mean, there's now multiple streams, for the first time in years, as Brent was saying. Like, you've got multiple distributors. It's not just under one house, and I guess this just continues that in one direction or another, just under Alliance's name rather than Diamond's.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not terribly well versed in a lot of Diamond's kind of like history. I just kind of turned my head to it. So I was wondering because last time when we were discussing it, it was kind of like they had it coming sentiment. I felt, yeah. So like them kind of being bailed out in this way, and you kind of mentioning other distributors. I would be interested to see what you guys think about it.
Yeah,
I think it'll be interesting to see if this alliance group, takes over all the payments of the money that they owe to people. Like we knew they owed, was it DC or somebody millions of dollars and stuff like that.
yeah.
And then reading that Bleeding Cool article, there's like multiple payments of, hundreds of thousands of dollars that need to be paid or back months pay or whatever. And I'm just like, how does this? I know the comic stores send their money into Diamond, and then they got to send their money. Diamond's got to send their money to the different publishers and things like that. But so I get like a 1 or 2 month turnaround, but this just seems like they owe them money from 6 months ago. And I'm just like, how do you even start a comic company? That's got to be insane. Like I thought whiskey, distilling was hard. You got to wait a couple of years to get your whiskey, but man, you make some art and you got to wait 4, 5, 6 months for your money to come in. Like,
Oh, geez. I'm sure Dustin Wynn has thoughts about that.
Well,
yeah, and that's probably why Jamal last episode that we were all on was like, fuck them,
well, you all. It's funny you mentioned whiskey because there's a whiskey distiller in New York City, Van Brunt, that went under like, and barely anybody really like realized until all of a sudden it was hard to find. And now their bottles that were once, $60 are now going for $350 because they're not making whiskey anymore.
Right.
And the same can be said, as we all know, when a comic book company is open and available and accessible and is regularly printing trade paperbacks for a product that they own, when all of a sudden they either stop publishing that or they go out of business, and then that trade is going for $300 on eBay. It's the same situation, It's
interesting though that like it's kind of the opposite. That company still has to be around for that trade to be valuable. Like,
right.
I have a bunch of CrossGen, Edge, and Vector trade paperbacks that I won in a contest.
Yeah,
like nobody wants those. Those aren't going for $300.
What are you doing with those? You have a bunch of them?
But Alan Moore Supreme, for an example, because of like the weird rights and distribution hang-ups on there, like those go for $350, $400 on eBay because there's literally no way to get them otherwise.
There's still like other ones. I guess if it's Marvel and DC, like you'll see a bump, and then as it goes out, no one will want it. Like any of the old Valiant trades, are people clamoring for that? No, they've got a new distributor that's recollecting them, and those aren't. I don't know if they're valuable or not. Yeah, like
completely depends on the book and the property and who wrote it and stuff like that. Just going with what you were mentioning on the outstanding money. Publishers Weekly has an article here that breaks that down a little bit. I know we've touched on this a little bit before, but just as a refresher, Penguin Random House is owed $9.2 million. Disney Consumer Products owed $1.7 million. Lunar itself is owed $500,000 from Diamond. So I guess,
and that's just crazy. You have a distribution house that's distributing stuff, and yet they got to go to these 2 other distributors to get Marvel and DC, and then redistribute to other places. Like, it's a little, no wonder they went out of business.
It's a little crazy, yeah.
Like if you're a Lunar, I'm not saying anything about the people who run it because I've never met them, but like as a business owner, wouldn't you be like trying to? What the margins are on these books that you have exclusive deals with, or Marvel and all this stuff. Like, wouldn't you try to edge out the competition in the same way? Or maybe Penguin had a lot to do with it. We just don't know the behind the scenes stuff.
It's
Penguin.
Certainly. Thank you for the rah there. I appreciate it.
I appreciate
it. They actually started Alliance Entertainment started as a music retail company in 1990 before expanding into wholesale. And, that's why they already have at least a little bit of a distribution arm, because they do music, they do movies, they do gaming, and they do pop culture. So this just, continues that expansion in one way or another. And I guess it's a good thing when you think about it that it's remaining here in the States, because there was talk of possibly a Canadian arm buying, Diamond outright. And if that's the case, with weird tariffs and stuff like that, it might have cost even more. But a lot of the comics are coming from Canada in the first place. So, like, who the hell frickin' knows what's going to wind up happening price-wise in the end with that. But at least it's settled more than anything else. Like, Chris, I know you mostly just go buy digital at this point anyway, but we like comic shops. Like, we don't want them like going under entirely.
You're a cruel bastard because you know how I feel about comics.
I know. Come on. What about your favorite? Don't you want St. Mark's to last forever? Like,
So first off, I just want to say that we're talking about Alliance Entertainment and what they make, and I saw some of their figures. I found that it's called like mini epics, but I wouldn't really call it like Funko because it's a little more realistic.
Yeah.
I feel like, Funko did have a line of figures that were more realistic, and it's closer to that. Like, I have well, you know what? I'm not even going to bother but I have like this Mystique that has like, it's more like an anime-ish, like big-eyed style.
Mm-hmm.
I know Shambo, yeah. I'm looking up right now.
Yeah. But I'm looking up Alliance. Of course, the first thing I had to look up was, are they private equity? And they are not.
God, good. Handmade by robots is what I was thinking of. That looks a little bit more Funko-y, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's multiple lines that they have. And
the mini epics, is that the Lord of the Rings stuff and Labyrinth?
I saw the Labyrinth one. That was the first thing that came up, was a Sarah from Labyrinth.
Oh, okay.
Handmade
I see Lord of the Rings. I see
Oh.
Labyrinth.
That's not what I'm looking at, Ian.
No, I know
I see
that's-
The Witcher.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
These look cool. I like
sword
this art
sorcery
style.
stuff.
Oh, damn. That's nice.
Kind of like Fortnite versions of figures.
So this is the figure I was referring to. Sorry if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
I got this Mystique figure in one of those the Funko, the Marvel boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The collector core. So that's what I was thinking of with Alliance's different lines. So I will say it's probably a good thing that Diamond has been pulled out of the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully once all the financials are sorted out, which God knows if that will happen, because finances are weird.
Right.
Capitalism, post-capitalist, whatever. The thing is, like, as you know how I feel about the comics industry in general, but comic shops are so stuck in the past that even though we should be moving away from companies like Diamond, stores aren't doing it. They aren't going to do it.
Right.
And they would rather just pull everything down with them than adapt to change.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know I'm saying some very incendiary things here. But,
No. Well, I mean, the stuff that you're saying is basically, pretty similar to what Jamal said last episode, that, that change has to happen in order for shit to get right. And, in some ways that is happening, with increased ways of obtaining digital and stuff like that, while at the same time also having alternatives distribution wise. I think the sub distribution of distributors really needs to knock itself off. Like, I feel like that is just, the snake eating its own tail in that situation, because I feel like so much less money is being made in that. Maybe it's more. Maybe I don't actually truly understand that.
I would say it's probably a relic from the past.
Yeah.
Again, talking about the comics industry, how it's stuck in the past when it comes to things like distribution. And I mean, again, it is amazing that they even did the direct market in the first place.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, like, again, we've moved past even that model.
And maybe it does also come down to, stores not having accounts with every single distributor, and that's why sub-distribution winds up happening.
Okay. What I was thinking about is having like distribution, sub-distribution, sub-distribution feels like a relic of an earlier time when there was more money to go around. Like, it's something that's been on my mind a lot in the past 10 years or so, because, we've talked about how, we talk about the 99 versus the 1%, and how the 1% is becoming richer and richer, and how wages are stagnant while, corporate profits are still through the roof, but wages are stagnant. Like, how the money's getting locked away. But like, once upon a time, there was a lot more money to go around, right? Like, I was thinking about this in the context of like, so, everyone knows, like, I love Barbies and all that. And I was thinking about how the original Barbie doll was $3 in 1959. And that's a huge chunk of money for a family back then.
Yeah.
A chunk of money that no parent right now, like adjusted for inflation, would spend right now on a single doll, right? But it was more feasible back then to do that because there was just more money with the 99%. So that's generally why I'm thinking, like, it was you could be inefficient and you could be decentralized and just you could be scattered and have a lot more middlemen in the past because there was just more money on the lower end of things. And now it's because it's all being locked up. We are scrambling for every last cent.
Yeah. Yep. And that is absolutely the case with especially distributors of paper media. Like I've seen so many magazines fall and die in the last couple of years, even though somehow Game Informer is coming back. That's weird to me, but that's
It is odd.
Of all the things I expected to read this week, Game Informer coming back not only at digital form but also as a physical magazine was not on my Magic 8-Ball. But
Weren't they the GameStop publication?
Sort
Yes.
of,
Different
yeah.
game.
They
yeah.
were for the longest time, but that got split off ages ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, we're talking about it goes into the larger thread about how everybody's trying to make a buck, and how I mentioned not that venture capital did anything, but it's like, oh, we need some money. We don't need Game Informer anymore, because Game Informer was the thing. Like, it was a driver for getting a GameStop membership, and that's not really a thing anymore, as far as I know.
God, those are the days.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've watched a couple of videos of people, getting used games online from GameStop just to see how many came with custom covers and no manual. Like, because that shit still happens on the regular at GameStop, and nobody even knows where these covers or manuals disappear to. Because
Well, I got Noah Breath of the Wild for Christmas, and the only place to get it at the time was what was it, at GameStop as a used copy.
yeah,
So I ordered it online, thinking, oh, it's gonna be, or no, I think my brother bought it. So yeah, he ordered it online from GameStop. It came in the mail, and I opened it up, and it's like there's no cover, and I was like,
of course
what the
not.
hell?
Of course not.
I'm like, my 7-year-old doesn't understand this concept. So I went into our local GameStop with the game, and I was like, hey, do you have one with a cover, and can I get it replaced? They're like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, nice. Well, at least you were able to make that happen. That's true. Yeah, similarly, if you were to get a comic book without a cup, no, okay, all right, that's a whole other situation.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, also, can I cut in real quick?
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
decided to run the inflation calculator.
Oh no.
And I said the original Barbie retail for $3. That was 1955.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it would be $36.
Wow.
$36 are collector Barbie prices, and even the collectors are like, I don't know if I want to spend that much money on a doll, even though they're collectors with no kids.
Yeah.
Like, just fucking do it, guys.
Okay, so now you have me looking up. Let's see. So if a comic book in 1929 cost 10 cents, in 2025 it should only cost $1.87.
Yeah.
At the Bowling Green State University Spider-Man conference in 2023, one of the presentations was on inflation in the comic book market, about prices of made Spider-Man then and now. And I wish that was recorded, because that was a fascinating presentation.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Many of them were, in terms of like how and why this came to be, in terms of like why is a comic book this much now?
Yeah.
Like if you consider a natural inflation, it's way more expensive than it ought to be. And
Yes.
I wish those details were still like with me, but it was a really good presentation on that.
Not to mention that back in the day, a lot of comic books were like 48 pages long. Like, you would basically have two comic books in one. You would have the main and
the DC ones, yeah.
Absolutely, the main and the backup. And now these days, you're likely to get a 22-page comic that costs between $3.99 and $4.99.
And can I one of my little something that just pisses me off, that really grinds my gears, is of course the fact that the physical copies and the digital copies were being sold for the same price.
Oh yes.
And I saw people say, well, what, you think they should, you think it costs that much to print and ship a book? And I'm like, I don't know how much it costs to print and ship a book, but I know how much the comic shop is paying for that. And I know their margins are, significant. Like, even $1 off, would be justified. But no, you're still charging the same amount. And that goes back to what we've talked about previously, is how, the comic companies feel so beholden to the shops that they'll, that's why they didn't price them differently, because they didn't want to hurt the shops.
I was kind of hoping that Amazon at some point would bully them into giving them the discount, because they did that with book publishers. Like, you can buy a Kindle book for $15 and it's out on I bought Onyx Storm for 15 and it's a hardcover for 25 in the same week. So like that's a thing. You can get a discount on a Kindle book as opposed to a real book. So where's my comics discount?
My LCS has discounts, like if you're kind of like their email service, like the average $3.99 comic, I can get it for like, I don't know, 15-30% off something.
Yeah, so some of the stores around here have similar things. Like if you have a regular pull list, they'll give you, they'll throw like a 20% or something like that.
I never got 20. I think my biggest discount when I was getting them weekly at a store was like 10.
We've already talked about, me and Ian have already talked about, my discount was, how much do you have in your wallet?
Yeah, exactly. That on a regular basis at Bullpen, when I was a kid, that would happen too. Like I only have 20. Like, okay, fine, you can give me 5 next time you're in, and then he would never ask for the 5. Like that was the way the structure worked. Not
going to sell them otherwise. They're just going to sit on the shelf, right? They're not shelf stable things.
Yeah, they're comic books. But some of the things that I'm not exactly thrilled about from this Comic Speed article, let me read this out to you. At one point, the head of Alliance made this comment. We want to sell $20 products. That's the challenge, because the labor cost and the freight cost just sucks all the profit out of it. We have a 95-cent rule. If we can't make 95 cents moving throughout our warehouse, we have to make a minimum, because that's what it costs to move things through. Okay, fine. That's great and all. Further down in the article, on Free Comic Books Day, which was not mentioned as part of the acquisition, Ogilvy didn't seem to know much, and the panelists had to explain how it worked. I guess all the publishers provide the free comic books. There's no free record day. There's record store day. Diamond was not a very profitable business. That's why it went into bankruptcy. If I don't make it profitable, I'm going to have a very grumpy bank and employees.
Well, this guy doesn't know the comics business. I'm telling you, single issues are done for at Diamond. Alliance, whatever the fuck it's going to be called.
And
give it 6 months.
Yeah,
that statement just gave me a headache.
Like they have this year's Free Comic Book Day, but there probably won't be one next year.
I almost guarantee you there will be. And I think that
I know it's a big day for stores in terms of sales, but the couple I've been around here do not have sales on Free Comic Book Day.
Well, how long has Free Comic Book Day been going around? Like 30 years?
No, not 30.
23?
20, yeah, exactly. Because I remember it happening, when like Spider-Man 2 was coming out, thereabouts.
I feel like it was tied to the first Spider-Man.
Was it the first one? I think, okay. Yeah, I think you might be right, actually. Let me look it up.
Which is like about 23 years ago.
Yeah. Free
Yeah,
Comic Book Day,
I remember going to actually, I might just be getting confused, because I remember going to see Spider-Man
2002.
And they were handing.
It was 2002. May 4th, 2002 was the first one.
So yay, 23 years. I got my number right.
There you go. Nice.
It's just that I remember going to the movie theater, and they were actually giving out issues of Ultimate Spider-Man #1. And I thought that was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember for one of the Star Wars movies, it actually might have been 2005, though, so it was Revenge of the Sith. I remember running to Midtown to grab the Star Wars Free Comic Book Day issue. So, yeah.
Also,
back when they were really exciting, like we actually gave a shit about them.
Well, yeah, because they didn't happen, every single year, and now they're not. But still, it's kind of been burnt out a little bit. So, what are you gonna do?
Plug for my latest episode of Question of Answers, where we talk about the Star Wars franchise.
Nicely done.
Oh boy.
Well, isn't that just kismet right there, Dono? Well done. Asked about previews, Diamond's immense iconic catalog. We need to understand a procedure first. It's not like it's our way or the highway. We have to figure out how that works. That at least
I'm
makes sense.
I'm going to buy a business and know nothing about it.
The CEO is not actually supposed to know how the fuck any of this shit works. Like that's left to the people underneath him who actually understand how business works. The CEO is just the figurehead.
That still sounds bad.
Oh, I know.
I want to say, Ian, that sounds quite right.
Yeah, I know. But hey, they're going to figure out how it works. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Oh, a lot of people were theorizing anyway that the physical previews copy is just going to stop. Like there's going to be a digital one that people are going to have to look through, or the shop itself will have to put on their website, and then people
didn't they charge
that.
for it though? It wasn't previously used to be like a $10 book if you wanted to buy the physical one.
$5.
$5.
I mean, I don't think it's ever been more than $5 or $6 because I used to buy it when I was in high school because I was crazy. Because like now that I think about it, I'm like, what is wrong with you, young
I don't
Chris?
think I ever
Why would you
bought
buy this?
previews.
I just like looking at, and so I have an opinion on this actually. I think because it's very likely they might be like, well, we don't need a physical copy, we can just end it and everybody will just order digitally, and this is actually a fine decision from a business perspective. However, I think you were with me, it was not the most recent Toy Fair, but the Toy Fair before that. Remember we stopped by the Lionel booth?
Yes.
And I asked them for a catalog for my father, and they said they do still publish them, but it's like a very small amount, and it is specifically for the collectors.
Yes.
Like, and it's not even like people collecting them. It's just that there are a certain group of people who like to look through catalogs.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like those are the people who are going to lose out. And there's always a possibility that they'll go without and then realize that they still have people who want that physical thing to look through. Because I understand like the joy of that.
Oh, yeah.
The reason I bought it is I literally would just look through previews. Sometimes, I was looking for stuff to read, but I just kind of like seeing what was out there and, letting my imagination run off of that. It's similar to how like kids looking through toy catalogs, which my niece has like 20 or 30 toy catalogs because of me. She's like the luckiest child. It's like it's going to be the weirdest thing when she gets a little older and like kids come over and like, what the fuck do you have this many toy catalogs? She'll flip through the catalogs and go to my mom, tell Santa to buy me this. Tell Santa I want this. Tell Santa I want this. And my mom is like, it's March.
Stop!
Yeah, I know it's just painful because one, like it's Christmas is a long time away, and two, like some of these are older catalogs, so I don't even know if the toys are still going to be available.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm gonna have to tell my mom, like, Mom, you need to start throwing them out when she's not looking.
Probably a good sign. Yeah, probably a good idea. Yeah, or they're going to start piling up like comics. So Heidi McDonald did have this to say after all that stuff that made us bang our heads. Her main takeaway from this is that Ogilvy was a good businessman who said a lot of the right things, but as a good businessman, it's clear that Diamond's comic business was a shadow of its former self, and the problem of how to distribute a patchwork quilt of $5 products from companies that range from one person in a garage to studio IP farms is not going to be magically solved. That said, Alliance is very well funded, as a huge infrastructure, and when all their outlets, ranging from Walmart to small record stores, are integrated, you could see some interesting new synergies being explored. That's what it all comes down to in the end, is synergy and where and how they're going to wind up melding this all together to make it work.
I just don't see a record store being happy when the previews catalog shows up with their next shipment. Like, hey, do you want to order comics 3 months from now?
They 100% are not going to do that. I guarantee that entirely. However,
it really depends on their business model, though.
Yeah, and
because like if you're talking about a record store, some record stores are very like, we only sell music, and other record stores are like, yeah, we'll sell some toys. And some are like, well, we'll sell weed. We got a license for that. Like, you don't fucking know.
Record stores these days are a similar model to comic book stores in the way that, as Chris just said, a lot of them are multifaceted. They're not just
medium.
Exactly. They can't just survive.
They're culture stores,
yes.
Not specifically music stores.
100% the case. Yeah. Like you'll find a couple of them, and that's only because like they're basically existing through entropy. Even though more vinyl records are sold than CDs these days, which makes me laugh because
I mean, it's not that weird when you consider that you've been seeing the news about how many people are finding their CDs are getting CD rot or DVD rot.
DVDs in particular, yeah.
The Warner Brothers. That was I guess a scandal, honestly.
In the pandemic, I had gotten rid of a lot of my DVDs and stuff, and then I put in some. I think this is what spurred me on. I had them in a closet in the old house, and I put them in during like my work day or whatever because I had no meetings, and a bunch of them didn't work. And I tried, my Xbox, I tried my PlayStation, didn't work. And those are the two things I had. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I guess it went bad.
Yeah.
My commentaries.
Well,
So yeah,
WB stuff you can actually I think there is a website you can go to.
They are offering replacements.
Yes.
But they cannot guarantee you will get back the same title.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like if they're not printing it, they're not going to reprint it just for a bunch of nerds,
Yeah.
which sucks.
Or
you know.
if your limited edition exclusive has disc rot, you may just get back a standard because frankly.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
you're not sending in. They don't care about the packaging. It's really just the disc itself. But again, you might not get
do.
the disc.
You do. That's what I'm saying. Like if it's a like if it was like a director's cut or whatever, and they only have the standard, then you might just get the standard because that's the only thing they still have.
One thing, couple of sets I kept, which I probably should get these checked, is the 4 seasons of Batman the Animated Series.
Oh God.
Yep.
My DVD collection of the original Batman quadrilogy, and the aluminum. Raph will appreciate this. The aluminum box set of Superman movies through Superman Returns. This is the first time the Donner cut came out.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say,
I have that on my shelf. I have that on my shelf. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have those Batman ones. I'll have to check them
They're
again.
I had
probably
the entire DCU like right over there.
those all came out when I was in college after 2004, so they're probably all screwed.
And I will remind everyone once again, Voodoo's disc to digital service still exists.
Oh, I used that. I used the hell out of that.
Go to DVD UPC, or you can scan your actual legitimate DVDs, whatever you want to do, and scan in as many codes as you can possibly scan in. You can get anywhere from a $5 to a $2 digital code, and then at least you have a digital copy of a movie. Obviously, that's not guaranteed to always exist because sometimes digital copies even themselves get pulled. But I've had that happen where movies are out of print on DVD, but we're still on Vudu, and I was able to redeem them in that fashion. So
I want to say, we know that things disappear because Ian was at my place last week. We had a little movie viewing night. We watched Annette and Megalopolis.
Yeah.
And I had to pirate Megalopolis. I asked 2 friends of mine to upload it to their Plex server because it's been removed from everything. It's no longer video on demand. It's never going to hit a streaming service. It's just going to be disappeared off the face of this earth.
It is a 2024 movie. I want to point that out. It is a 2024
Why?
movie.
What's the reason?
Because a certain Coppola doesn't like being laughed at. And
well, I'm laughing now.
Yeah, like straight up, you can get a blue. Sometimes there's still Blu-ray copies floating about and stuff like that.
No, I don't think they ever made them. They never got because I know this because God, I spend way too much time on Reddit and people were complaining. I pre-ordered Megalopolis and they canceled my pre-order. I love the fact that
he's that sensitive because he won't let it be seen anymore.
Yeah, straight up. Like
how do you do the live audience thing on Blu-ray though?
Oh, that scene. I know it. Yeah, you mean the part where the person stands up?
Yeah,
the same way they did it in a lot of theaters.
MST3K, you had a little shadow.
Yeah,
it was essentially Misty 3K where they pulled out from the screen. So they could have like a silhouette in the corner.
Yeah, there's a similar scene. I mean, it's made this way, but there's a similar scene in The Day the Earth Blew Up, the new Looney Tunes movie. Where
that was great.
Yeah, where a guy walks in front of the screen.
Yeah, but that scene was so funny. Forget it. I give up. And the guy just walks away, and it was. That was a good movie.
It really was. Well, we'll talk about that later on, actually, because I
going back to Vudu disc to digital.
Yeah,
just as a tip.
It's Fandango, by the way. I know it's called Fandango at home now, but it's
Fandango at home.
Yeah.
You can find UPC codes, images on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll do what I have to.
DVDUPC.com.
I expanded my collection largely that way. For
DVDUPC.com.
I had like 50 DVDs back then.
Yeah,
but the TV sets don't work. At least they used to.
Sometimes
I tried them. I don't know if some of them did or didn't.
I'll check in, but at some point.
Sometimes you can get individual discs to work, but the sets don't always work the way that they're supposed to.
I'm shocked that I found my DVDs after they've been missing for like 2 years.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, if I were to play a DVD now, it would have to be on my PS5 because my laptop can't do it anymore. And I've found a site. Because I have all these Simpsons DVDs, at least for the classic years of The Simpsons, and they have commentaries on every episode. I just found a site that has commentaries for every episode and just watch it on Disney Plus with the volume down and have the MP3 of the commentary that way just because I'm just too lazy to stand up and walk over and put it in my
The fact
PlayStation.
that they won't put those commentaries just on Disney Plus like astonishes me, because there was clearly a moment when somebody working at Disney Plus was trying to get more things like that. They were trying to create like a DVD like experience, because sometimes you look and you'll see like, oh, there's behind the scenes stuff, and oh, there is like, I think that I've seen one or two commentaries for things. Actually, what blew my mind on Disney Plus was that they don't have it anymore, but there was like, you could look at Moana and they had the various dubs for Moana, because Moana's been dubbed into, not just like, because you know how every Disney movie is like dubbed into Spanish and French and German and Russian, but they also had the Maori, Tahitian, and Hawaiian.
That's cool.
And the Hawaiian dub is missing now.
That's weird.
Like I still found the Te Maori one, but not the Hawaiian one.
That is fascinating. I mean, I still like, and I know this isn't dubs, but I still like that you can switch between the IMAX ratio or regular ratio for the MCU films on Disney Plus. Like that's pretty cool. Like if you want to get like the full window aspect of it all, you have the option between those two cuts.
That bugs the hell out of me that like Nolan, his IMAX stuff comes out on Blu-ray and not digital, just Blu-ray. But the fact that they're like, hey, we're gonna hold the IMAX version on Disney Plus only, it's like,
well, since I mentioned the MCU, we may as well transition. We're recording this on a good day to talk about the MCU, as it took about 5 hours. But by the time that was all said and done, most of the cast, I guarantee you there's ones that they didn't reveal, but most of the cast for Avengers Doomsday was officially announced the day that we are recording this, March 26th, as it was a very boring stream of a whole bunch of chairs with names that you basically had to put on in the background, and whenever the music would swell, that's when you would pay attention, because that's when they would pan out.
What? You've gone to anime cons.
Yeah.
Chair.
Oh God. Oh my.
I haven't heard that in 20 years. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, is that there used to be, I guess you could call it like a meme where people would just chant it, because at some con, and I say at some because I don't even remember at this point, somebody was supposed to come out, but there was only a chair on the stage.
Yeah.
The person had disappeared, so everybody chanted for the chair, and then it just spread from there. I don't even remember what con or the circumstances at this point. It's all like, it's faded into the annals of history for me. But I remember chair. And that
is an old comic timing meme, about as old as my parents are dead.
Hey, and at the same
That's
time,
my comic timing.
Dazzler. All right, fine. Anyway,
that's not
Yuri.
Same era. That's the same era.
Oh my God, man!
That dude is still around. You know.
I'm sure he is. Thank you.
With the Yowie paddle.
Frickin' MegaCon, man. That was an experience. But names noticeably not mentioned in this chair crawl, because that's what I'm going to call it, are Tom Holland and Chris Evans. Neither one of them were mentioned. It was announced but not announced, because Chris Evans was like, I have no idea what they're talking about, which clearly he's a lying bastard, but whatever. That supposedly Chris Evans was supposed to be returning in Doomsday, but that is now, not confirmed.
We can bring Gambit back, but we can't bring back Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Oh wait, they sued her. She sued them for all her.
Well, but I wouldn't be I wouldn't be shocked if she is actually back in this in one form or another, and they just haven't announced her yet. But cast that's officially been announced. I'm gonna run through it. The list.
Easier for the actors or the characters to list through.
I will list the characters and the actors, and if I mispronounce a name, then I'm just gonna say the character, and so be it. But
I know what name you're going to mispronounce. I already see it coming in.
Good luck with the thing.
Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Tom Hiddleston as Loki is back. Anthony Mackie as Captain America 2, Revenge of the Captain America. Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, obviously. Letitia Wright back as Black Panther. They list her as Black Panther in this. Shuri.
Thank you.
Shuri, Black Panther.
Yeah, I've seen people call her Shuri, and I'm like, did you not pay attention to that movie at all, you sexist pig?
Seriously. Simu Liu back as Shang-Chi, that makes me very happy, as I wasn't sure. It's and him especially. Why don't we bring back some of the Eternals while we're at it? Maybe that'll happen, We'll see.
Simu Liu as Ken.
I'd be down for it. Let's make it happen.
Look! His Ken can do a backflip, and the other one can't. So
that's true.
He was like the main rival Ken.
Yes, he was. Danny Ramirez as the Falcon and Winston Duke as M'Baku. Those are all confirmed. Nice. Most of the cast of Thunderbolts is also going to be in this movie. Sebastian Stan as Winter Soldier. Louis Pullman, a character at this time simply known as Bob. So that's the way that they list it. Yeah. As I said, Sebastian Stan as Winter Soldier, Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova,
Let's call her Black Widow.
All right, Black Widow. Wyatt Russell as Timu, Captain America. David Harbour as Red Guardian, which is the Captain America variant from the UK, from the USSR.
Wow, Ian.
Hannah John Kamen, otherwise known as Ghost.
I think it might be Kamen. I'm not sure though.
Kamen, there you go. But here's the shits. Okay, Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier, Ian McKellen as Magneto, James Marsden as Cyclops, and Rebecca Romijn as Mystique.
And Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Woo!
And Kelsey Grammer as Beast. So these are good reveals, honestly. Like I kind of figured they were coming. We saw Kelsey Grammer as Beast happening again, because of the stinger in Marvels. I figured that he was going to be back.
That's true, but like the Deadpool Wolverine thing seemed like a genuine farewell to that era. Yeah. So I didn't presume to think. I thought if we were going to see Charles Xavier and Magneto again, it would have been McAvoy and Fassbender.
Yeah, I said this in our chat that I am mostly just because Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are getting old.
That was my next comment. I love those actors, but gosh darn, I guess they got bills to pay, but
they probably don't at this point. They're probably fine.
Yeah.
If I have people telling me that 2002 is too not modern for art, then surely these are the same kids that think that Pat Stu and Ian McKellen are to Xavier and what's his name as we think of Dolph Lundgren to the Punisher.
Well, yeah,
and that far removed from the timeline that they're old and they don't count anymore. But
at the same time, who's watching these movies? And
I mean, yeah, I got teen coworkers saying that they grew up with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. And
exactly.
Unironically, so it's like I concur that I'm happy to see them, but again, it is very much like okay, but real talk, they are old.
Oh yeah,
and Fassbender and McAvoy. We're good in the roles. They might still show up.
They might.
That would get me more excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the only thing that makes me excited. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but the only thing that makes me excited about Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen being in this movie is that they are BFFs, and I know they're going to be very happy on set together.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll finally kiss.
Yeah, maybe.
I think they've already kissed. They probably already have.
But they're gonna kiss on screen, okay? That would be a unique experience.
They came this close in X-Men '97.
Yeah, but this is definitely a farewell. You know that for at least 3/4, if not all of the cast. Like we are gonna get an MCU X-Men that are not these guys. At one point, this is a multiverse movie. You can pull this off one more time and be fine with that. Oh, and by the way, Channing Tatum is back as Gambit.
See, I really think this is a mistake. Not Channing Tatum. Mm-hmm. I'll give him another shot. He was still terrible.
No, he wasn't. But no, he's not. Intentionally. Continue.
Okay, we'll see. The jury's still out.
Mm-hmm.
I think these old X-Men characters, aside from Alan Cumming, whom we only got to ever see once, right? Mm-hmm. So fine.
Yeah.
But Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, I love them. I love those movies. I love that they came back in Days of Future Past. But yes, they're old, but gosh, I just, for the timeline's sake, like it just doesn't make any sense. You already had Patrick come back in Multiverse of Madness, which I get, but like to have them come into Doomsday as the end of whatever freaking saga they think they're telling, and then to rearrange them and come out with like, oh, we're gonna have a new version 5 years later.
It's
just like,
it's
I know it
fundamentally
doesn't
rude.
matter, but
Yeah. Oh, I think it's rude.
Fundamentally rude.
It's
I
really
think it's just going to
rude.
be confusing for people later on. They're going to be like, I don't need it. Why am I going to see this X-Men movie? They've already had 6 other ones. And in Avengers Doomsday, they killed all of them. So why do I need to go see this new one? Like, it'll fail.
Yeah,
I think it depends on how you do it, because they might just they could cynically kill them off, or they could present them and then straight up phase like literally flash them into like new actors to demonstrate the multiverse.
I am fully expecting something along the lines of Crisis on Infinite Earths here. I am expecting
you had Days of Future Past. Yeah. You had Logan that gave that era an ending, right? But those 2 movies gave that era an ending. Deadpool and Wolverine brought him back, and then gave that character and those characters an ending extraneous to everybody else, right? James Marsden, Johnny Storm, all that other Fox era X-Men. Wolverine's still lingering around in what universe Deadpool lives in. I have no idea, but like to me that was an ending. Like you can still have Ryan Reynolds be Deadpool, but he's a different Deadpool.
Yeah,
and Wolverine does not exist in the MCU.
I don't disagree with you because of the fact that of what you're saying. We've genuinely had 3+ endings for this era. It doesn't seem. It's not like No Way Home would had some kind of closure on the previous version of Spider-Man. This doesn't seem to be necessary anymore. It's nice. It's cool to acknowledge it again, but at this point, it's kind of creeping into excessive.
Like it's not that beloved in my brain. It's not that beloved. But there's nobody. People were crying out for Hugh Jackman Wolverine in the same way that they cried out for Richard Donner Superman when we were talking about Brandon Routh and we had Jamal and Raph on, pissing their way and shitting on the new guy. Nobody's crying about Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen as Magneto and Professor X the way that those guys were about Superman when we started, 15 years ago. You know what I mean? Like they're not that beloved. You had X1 and X2. X3 was a joke, and then they started over with the new cast. And then we had the other 2 movies, Days of Future Past and Logan, that kind of brought them back a little bit. But nobody is like, oh, these were all great movies. We really love them. We really want them back. Like, there's no clamoring for them.
I would argue.
People were clamoring for Andrew Garfield because he didn't get an ending.
Yeah. But I would say, at least with Patrick Stewart, though, Patrick Stewart is the iconic Professor X because he was Professor X before he was Professor X.
100%.
For years, people have been fan casting him before, when the internet was still kind of babyish. And I know Wizard put him on their list of like, if you're going to
there was one famous bald actor at the time, like him or Michael Ironside, right?
Yeah. But
he's also a good actor.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, when it comes down to it, this series of movies is clearly being viewed as a capper in a lot of ways, similar to, Endgame and all that jazz. But this one, like, literally, when we get out of this, I'm not expecting to find anything multiverse for many, many years.
I want out of this era so badly at this point because it's been a mess. We've talked about this before, that Marvel has had no idea. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they were pushing Kang and then had to drop Kang because they clearly had no idea. Like, again, I'm rehashing stuff I've said before, that the pandemic fucked them over, then the Kang thing. But even then, I feel like when you look at the projects that were already greenlighted, they still were kind of unsteady where they wanted to go with this.
Yeah.
I think they just got very hubristic. They were feeling themselves. They're the biggest franchise in the world, and they started smelling themselves. By the time of like the Shang-Chi, Eternals, Black Widow era and the Disney Plus shows, you could kind of sense, and especially because like the first year the Disney Plus shows were very well received, you could sense the arrogance on Feige and the MCU to the point where like there was a lot less damage control. Where now we're kind of rewriting the ship or bringing in RDJ. I agree with Ian that like I think that this is like the last time we'll see like. Because I think people thought Hiddleston was done as Loki. Yeah. I think this is the last time we'll see any of these characters, like Hemsworth, like, Mackie, like, because everyone's turning 50. Yeah. And I think that, like, except for some new characters like Florence Pugh and Simu Liu,
you think
like
Mackie's
95,
done?
I think 95% of this cast is open to be like recast after this, and it'll be like the kind of Marvel thing where like, oh, it's a new artist, interpreting your favorite characters. Like, I guarantee you, after this phase, we'll see like essentially a reboot of Avengers 2012. Like Cap and Iron Man and Thor with new actors, and this is going to be like the jumping off point to that.
I don't think Mackie's done. I think he's got another 10 years left.
I think
just got the reins.
Mackie in particular is definitely, I think, still going to be around. We are going to see new characters and new actors definitely in one form or another. I don't see a major universe reboot of different people playing these characters happening for at least another round, quite frankly. I think
there'd be too much of a riot at that point.
Oh yeah. Let me also
I think it's sooner rather than later. We're going to see a new Steve Rogers. We're going to see a new T'Challa.
No, I don't think so.
Sooner rather than later.
We might get a new T'Challa. T'Challa.
T'Challa is going to age up into being 16, young Black Panther here in 5 years. So.
But also with the multiverse being the way it is, there is a possibility of another T'Challa basically being inserted into the MCU if they want to.
So he'll be like the comic book Nick Fury?
Possibly.
I think it's a disservice to that. Like, here's the thing. If they made the decision not to recast T'Challa, then why bring in a younger son of T'Challa later?
Yeah, I agree.
Because they were not confident in their decision not to recast him.
Yeah.
Well,
there was so much clamoring for one or the other.
Fine. If they don't like the actress because she was causing whatever problems at the time, probably won't anymore because I think it was a vaccine thing.
We are definitely going to get another Doctor Doom. We know that for
maybe she didn't like carrying the film. That could be another issue.
As part of this reveal, by the way, just to finish the list of people that were announced: Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, Vanessa Kirby as Invisible Woman, Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing. I don't care if I mispronounced it. Bachrach.
Very good.
Bachrach sounds way better as the Thing. So
aren't you Jewish? Shouldn't you know how to pronounce it?
Yeah, sure. And Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch were announced, and probably the biggest surprise out of all this, we might actually get some Sue Storm Namor action as Tina Huerta Mejia.
He got a third name this time.
I think you got it. I think you got it for the most part.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of your gringo act.
as Namor was announced in this. He did have some weird shit back in 2023. He denied it, and allegations dropped out, yada, 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 whatever. So he is still involved with with Marvel. And, of course, Robert Downey Jr. as Doom. We already knew that was happening, but that basically concluded the announcements. Talking back to what we were saying, though, I guarantee you we're going to get a quote-unquote MCU Doom before this is all said and done. Like it ain't going to be Downey the entire time. Like, that's...
Very briefly, though, what you had started off with is, like, who's not mentioned, like Evans and Tom Holland. I mean, I'm imagining that Doom's... Because it wasn't the idea of this is the same thing as Infinity War and Endgame. This is kind of like a two-parter.
Yeah.
We're going to get Evans and Holland, like, the actual...
Good point,
and
yes.
possibly even Charlie Cox in the finale to it.
And actually, Dono, that's a good point, because... for one thing, Cumberbatch is going to be in the next one, not in this one. He's basically confirmed that. So Cumberbatch is going to be in the follow up, and for that matter, Chris Pratt. We know Star-Lord will return. They basically said as much at the end of Guardians Volume 3, and he was not in this casting announcement. So it's possible we may not be seeing him until the second of these two movies as well.
We're at the point now where there's so many characters we're forgetting about some.
Yeah, I know.
I am so. Let me pour some cold water on this guy. I'm worried.
And now it's time for Brent being negative.
I'm negative. Okay, I am concerned. Here are my reasons.
Yes.
All right?
Yes, please.
You have
present your PowerPoint.
Jonathan Majors.
Let me share your screen with your PowerPoint. Let's get this over with. Come on.
I don't have a PowerPoint.
Okay, all right.
You have the whole Jonathan Majors situation.
Yeah.
Right. The plan being we're going to do Kang, and then Secret Wars. If Kang led to Secret Wars or whatever, who knows what that plan was? So I don't. So that's gone. Then it's a redo with Doom, much less Robert Downey Jr. as Doom. However that works. So. I have very little faith, and they brought back one of the Avengers screenwriters, right? Or only one would come back. Who knows the story?
Marcus or McFeely.
I think as a team they worked really well together, but I don't know if one guy can carry the weight. I don't know that they've worked independently of each other. All right, so you have that. Then you have all the. I'll just call them out. The Russo brothers, the once golden child of MCU, Winter Soldier, Civil War. Infinity War, Endgame.
Yeah.
Post Marvel, Cherry. Anybody watch that? Tom Holland? No.
I like the Gray Man.
The Gray Man.
Gray Man was fun. I enjoyed Gray Man.
Kind of boring. And then you have this new Netflix $300 million disaster, which I have not seen anybody watch or review. with the Netflix golden child, Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt. Like, I gotta say it, guys. I don't know that they still got the stuff to do 2 big movies. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, there's not been a Marvel film they failed, so maybe that is really their wheelhouse.
Yeah, and also plain and simple, we're just gonna have to watch and find out, Brent. Maybe, maybe, just maybe, and hear me out here. We'll have to see what the movie is actually like first before we speculate. And yeah, I feel you. I completely feel what you're saying, and I'm trepidatious like you are. These have not all been gems since since Endgame. Like there have been some stumbling blocks. I've liked a lot of them more than other people have. We're about to talk about one of them that I definitely like more than other people have. But at the same time, the Russos have a track record of making good MCU movies. So let's see. Maybe they just wanted to go home again and they just can't make their own real IP. I don't know.
And odds are, if it is bad, Ian will still say, you know what? I had fun.
Yes, that is true. Unless I didn't have fun. Because that's happened too. Go back into our archive. Anybody who hasn't listened to any of our Zack Snyder episodes.
Been a long-time listener of Raging Bullets and has taken on the Sean Whalen persona in terms of movies.
Except for when
I think
except,
that, like, genuinely,
except for when it comes to Zack Snyder movies, in which case I hate them all. Okay.
Oh yeah, I think the Fantastic Four is the film to look out for because that's definitely like kind of be like this is a movie that is going to be in this lockstep series of films to lead up to these Avengers movies.
Yes,
and that's got to be the one to really have people react to. If that film is mid, then I'll be worried because I feel that they know that's got to hit.
Especially there's some weird thing with MCU movies and directors. Like you have MCU movies launching directors like Mark Webb, right? Came in, did the Spider-Man movies. His latest movie, Snow White, opened, right? Wasn't that a Mark Webb movie?
Yes.
And it's not doing very well.
Yeah.
It's good. I don't know if it's not well directed or whatever.
No.
But
this is why. His name is Mark Webb. He's only supposed to do Spider-Man movies, plain and simple.
I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing with you.
He should have directed Madam Web.
There you go.
Should have.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And then on the flip side, you had I forget the woman's name who directed Eternals, but she won an Oscar right before the Eternals came out.
Chloe Zhao.
Yeah.
Chloe Zhao. Very talented director, won for directing, I believe, right? And then has Eternals, and then somehow the Marvel aesthetic, I don't know, fell flat with her. She had a very dynamic lighting. I think that was the best looking naturalistic MCU movie we ever saw. That was her thing.
I really like.
But in terms of acting and stuff, I think it suffered maybe because of the story. So there's some weird thing with Marvel. It's like they launched a director, and their Marvel movies are good, and everything else after perhaps not that good. Or you get a good director in, Sam Raimi, in his Marvel movie, not that good.
The obvious answer for that is that like they're being like looked down, breathed down their necks by producers and Kevin Feige, like, you got to do it this. I mean, that's what Sam Raimi said. He said he was not given as much freedom as he would have liked because of the MCU format. And that's not necessarily, actually these directors suck. It's the MCU format is hampering these creatives.
Yeah, some people work well within the constraints, which would be, the
Ryan Coogler
brothers. Yeah. Well, that too. But then, the thing is, they tried doing the auteur thing. Like, think about how Kenneth Branagh was directing the Thor movies, but they didn't really.
Ryan Coogler's the exception to this rule, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Taika Waititi also did pretty good, though. I know a lot of people hated Love and Thunder, so.
Oh, I like both of them. Yeah, he's good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great, and it's just I know some people didn't like Love and Thunder, but some people work within constraints. No, I'm saying so. Well, moving on from some people like you.
What do you mean, some people?
People.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. I was like, but yeah, some people work well within constraints.
Yeah.
I know. I think I've had this conversation with somebody recently. How like you can't tell some people like you can't just tell them just write something because then they just like freeze up like deer in headlights, and that's probably the Russo brothers, to be honest.
Yep.
But then if you tell people, okay, I need a movie about a cop who has superpowers and it's going to hook up with these other 3 movies about a firefighter and an EMS that also have superpowers, and they'll be like, I gotcha. And they might turn out a good movie. But yeah, they'll freeze like a deer in headlights if you give them a blank page.
Well, let's also see how Destin Daniel Cretton does. Honestly, like he's moving on from Well, he's going to do another Shang-Chi movie, but he's also moving on to the next Spider-Man movie after this.
I think Spider-Man 4 is coming out first.
Spider-Man 4 is going to come out before the next Shang-Chi. That is correct. Yeah, because he's actually currently working on that right now.
I would bet the next Shang-Chi movie is not directed by him.
I think it's going to be honest with you. I think that him and Simu Liu have a really good relationship going, so I think that may actually continue. But he also worked on Tokyo Vice as an executive producer. He worked on American Born Chinese as a director and executive producer, directed 2 episodes of that. I think American Born Chinese was fantastic.
I want to see that. I think I want to see that.
It was a really good adaptation, and he's working on the Wonder Man show that's going to premiere as well. So he's still in the Marvel house.
Marvel's got their fingers in him.
Exactly. But he also hasn't done he hadn't done much before Shang-Chi. He'd only done like 4 movies as a director writer before he actually got on Shang-Chi. So that's a very different situation with him. But absolutely, some people just can't work on their own as much as they can under direct supervision, and then the reverse is true. So 6 in one, a half dozen in the other.
There's also the larger context of just like Hollywood right now post COVID, blockbusters. Like people can say, well, all these movies suck, or that people aren't going out to see them because the whole practice of going out to the movie theater and seeing a movie has like completely changed now.
Yeah. And
so the need for there to be a blockbuster is different. And so that might be something that the MCU may not be able to help. In addition, stories like Secret Wars or these kinds of multi-spanning combo crossovers in live action. I mean, they are super ambitious. Are they capable of translating well to screen? Like I can say for myself, I enjoyed Cap 4 because I'm a comic book fan and I watched a comic film. I have to kind of separate myself from that. It's okay, what do people not like from that? What are they seeing that like isn't translating for them because they're not into comics like I am? And I think that might be a kind of like lost in translation hiccup that may be difficult to cross.
Yeah.
The more ambitious these stories and these phases and these characters can tend to be.
First off, Dono, excellent transition. A+. Would do again. Speaking of Captain America: Brave New World, it's been out for a couple weeks now. We've all seen it on the call. I saw it. I saw it about 2 weeks after it came out. At this point in time, even though it cost $180 million to make, and it's made $402 million worldwide, it technically has not broken even yet. It needs to make, I think, another $50 million at the box office to officially do that. I think that once streaming factors in and purchases and stuff like that, it will get there. It's just, they'd like to get there from box office alone, and they may very well not. The fact that $400 million could be considered a flop these days really grinds my gears. But that says as well, some of the issues we have with the movie industry that we were just talking about. So that's a lot of freaking money to spend on marketing and all the other stuff that ties in one way or the other. It certainly didn't help that this movie got delayed, like twice. The McDonald's toys for this movie came out, I think 9 months before the movie did, if I remember correctly. There were McDonald's toys at McDonald's for Happy Meals when last baseball season wrapped up.
Oh yes, there was.
Yeah,
right. It got delayed a year at the last minute.
Exactly. So let's think about that for a second.
And McDonald's was like, "See ya. Yeah. We got the product."
And that's just it. Like, you can't delay product. It's there already. You're gonna have to bring it out. And I think that may have harmed the film in certain aspects. But I think the biggest way that this film was harmed. Let me scroll down a little bit more here so you can see that Film for IMAX advertisement on the IMDb page. I think the biggest mistake that this movie made, and I'm not the first person to say it, and I'm not going to be the last person to say it, is not making Red Hulk a surprise.
I know you're not the first person to say that because I said it to you.
Yes, and you were damn right. You were damn right.
Credit. I was gonna say it on the last time we talked on the podcast, but it's a spoiler. But I mean, I'll let you talk. But yes, I think that actually ruined I don't know if that ruined its finances, like if people aren't going to see it because Red Hulk is in it, but I do think it ruined it as an artistic product, as a movie-going experience. It was just yeah. So say what you're going to say.
No, and that's exactly it. Like, rather than be able to sit down and watch the movie and enjoy the plot progression the way that the directors and writers intended, and even the editors intended, the entire time as a moviegoer, you're like, all right, when's it gonna happen? Oh, he's twitching. Looks like he might be getting a little mad, a little angry. You wouldn't like him when he's red angry. And then
there was a lot of like red blue balls in that like ship sequence.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sitting there watching the movie. I'm enjoying the movie, and I'm like, all right, I kind of wish they'd just do it already because I know what's going to happen. And it really just messed with the overall progression of the film because of it being revealed like that. Like,
yeah, I think it disproves the people who like to say spoilers don't matter. If it's a good movie, like, you being spoiled shouldn't ruin it for you. But I've always argued that there are different ways to enjoy a movie, and like the spoiler-free going in knowing nothing is like an experience in itself. Like watching, I think an example I usually give is Scream, the original Scream. You go in not knowing who the murderers are. You're in the dark as much as the characters, and it's really like interesting. Just like you're like, what's going on? Oh my God, that person's dead. Oh, this is what? Oh my God, it's two guys. I didn't even think of. I mean, some people will be like, oh, I figured there was two people, but most of us were just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know?
As somebody who watched this first Scream like 2-3 years ago, I was genuinely surprised.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a good twist. And then the second time you watch it, then you start seeing how that reveal worked throughout the movie.
It's an honest twist.
The Fight Club reveal. Could you imagine if in the the upcoming for Fight Club they'd revealed the Tyler Durden twist? Like it wouldn't have worked. It simply would not have worked as a movie because of that. And that's what I think the major criticism I have for this movie is, outside of the fact that clearly some stuff was cut and some plot points could have used a little bit further exploration, similar to what I said about the Marvels.
I think the biggest thing for this movie that didn't work for me, it's a mediocre MCU film. It's definitely, unfortunately, the worst Captain America film, even though we only have 3 to choose from, and one of those 3 other ones has literally every other fucking Avenger in it, so it's hard to beat that one in terms of comic book action, right?
Yeah.
And it was definitely written as a mystery of like, is he turning red? Like, that would have been exciting as a comic book fan to be like, is he turning red? Is he turning red? Oh, he's a Red Hulk. That would have definitely been cool. But I think it also suffered because too, they didn't have a coherent story. Like, if they wanted to, maybe I wonder if they were like, hey, we don't have enough to sell this on. Because Captain America versus Giancarlo Esposito is not very exciting in terms of selling a movie, right? There's not a huge conspiracy. That was an add-on later. I don't know if it was supposed to be Seth Rollins originally or whatever.
It was supposed to be Seth Rollins, yes.
I don't know why it wasn't, but whatever.
They completely changed characters as well, because originally
it was still the Cobra Cult, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't going to be Sidewinder. It was going to be like the head of Cobra. I think King Cobra, I think is actually his name, if I remember correctly. And they decided to pivot when they could get Giancarlo Esposito and use Sidewinder instead in that situation.
See, I think that was a mistake, because he's a better like physical match for a non-superpowered Cap. You know what I mean? Seth Rollins versus like another old man as old as Patrick Stewart at this point.
Yeah.
No offense, Giancarlo does the same thing.
I don't think he's that old.
Fine. No, he's fine. He's in his 60s.
I don't think he is.
He's not that old.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he's got to be in his 60s. He looked older, much older this time.
Patrick Stewart's like in his 80s.
Giancarlo Esposito is 66. Patrick Stewart's in his 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Looking, you know, like he's slowing down. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
Still a threatening dude, you know what I mean? But I think a better physical match would have been a younger person of Mackie's age, like Seth Rollins. He's probably pushing 40 or over 40, just like Mackie is. So you don't have a physical match for Cap to excite people to put in previews. So you got to put in something. Well, we want to keep Red Hulk a secret. Okay, what else we got? We got the leader. Well, you botched the leader's design. He looks like a mutated pimple. Doesn't look that green. You know, so like
That's hard to argue.
you mess that up, and how are you going to put that ugly guy on the front page of your movie poster? So then all you're left with after all these cuts is we got to put in Red Hulk.
I don't think you needed a real to push a villain that hard.
And that wasn't the design. That wasn't even the design.
That's what I'm pointing out. That's what I'm pointing out.
It was heavily green screened, and it still looked like shit.
Brave New World was in production for so long and had so many retakes that as part of the retakes, they also completely changed the design of the leader because, as I said about the McDonald's toys, toy designs have to go out to production long before the movie does, and this was that I have on screen right now, the original design of the leader that they were passing around, like a goatee.
Still got hair.
It still has hair, a little bit of a bigger head, but it looks a lot more regular. And instead they went for a much more like hyper deformed design that works in some
ways. The low from
Freakazoid. Yeah, God, it works in some ways. It doesn't in others.
I would argue that if they had kept at least giving it like a little goatee, it probably would have been fine.
I agree with you. Yes,
and it honestly, I'm thinking
the one Dono put on the Facebook chat is great. You got to pull that one up.
Yeah,
if that's the real design.
Yeah,
I put it in the chat. Yeah,
yeah, I see it there. I'll go ahead and open it up. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great design. I really like that design. Whatever they gave us with this mutated brain thing, no thanks.
Yeah, here's
because you look at the comic book Alex Ross leader you have on the right before that. He has a vein, he has hair, and if anybody watched Incredible Hulk cartoon from the '90s, which is like people my age and older, that's the leader that he's got on screen with the hair and the goatee. Like that's it, bingo.
Yeah,
great. Sign off on it.
I do 100% agree though that like the other design would have worked a lot better with at least the goatee, like just to even it out, Chris. Like you are right about that.
Yeah, I also would argue that from a story point of view, maybe he has facial hair because he doesn't want to have to fucking look in a mirror to shave.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's the one point that like the redesign does work in the I kept mutating him to try to get him smarter type of situation that seemed to be going on here. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to look at that face every day either, and I'd be pretty damn pissed at Thunderbolt Ross if that's what I wound up looking like in the end.
But
so
I can believe that the leader with the giant head is the smartest man on the planet because he's got the biggest brain.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe that the leader with a mutated, losing his flesh is the smartest man on the planet, though.
Yeah.
And so back to my thing, it's like you have nothing to advertise this movie with. If you got rid of Seth Rollins, who's a big star, as big as The Rock was when The Rock was The Rock before he became Dwayne Johnson. As my kids call The Rock, they're like, oh, Moana 2 has got Dwayne Johnson in it. I'm like, I'm sorry, who? You mean The Rock? They're like, no, Dwayne Johnson. My son is like, hey, that's Dwayne Johnson, recognizing the voice. I'm like, oh my God.
Seth Rollins
is probably that same level right now.
No, he's not.
Before The Rock got the Mummy.
No, he's not. I've gotten more into wrestling over the last couple of years. Seth Rollins is a very charismatic human being.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking Seth Rollins is The Rock's cousin.
No.
And that's the different guy.
No, you're thinking of Roman Reigns. That is a very different human being. Not even close.
But is Roman Reigns way more famous than Seth Rollins?
Okay, in wrestling terms, Roman Reigns was a champion like longest in the history of the WWE. So yes, but at the same time, they're both like upper like main status, but neither one of them are actors. Seth Rollins has been in like maybe like 2 things as an actor so far. This would have been his big break. Also, funny enough, his wife, Becky Lynch, was also supposed to be in a Marvel movie and was cut. So they have very, very bad luck at being in Marvel movies. Apparently, she was supposed to be in the teaser at the end tease for the Eternals as one of the new Eternals that they were like announcing, and she straight up got cut at the last minute, and they pivoted instead.
No loss there, Becky.
No, yeah, but I don't know how good of an actor he would have been, to be honest with you. He's physical and he can definitely fight. I don't know if he would have been a good actor. Giancarlo Esposito's a damn good actor, no matter what you.
No, he's good. I just, from a marketing standpoint, I don't think they had a choice to put Red Hulk out there. But the story, I think, was chopped up so bad. Back to that IMDb page you had up. There's 3 writers, right? Malcolm Spellman is the second one.
Yes.
And Malcolm Spellman was the guy that architected the phenomenal Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show. He was the guy behind it. Did he write this whole movie? What was this whole idea? There's some elements still in there. Everything with
Isaiah Bradley.
Isaiah Bradley. Yes, thank you. That's still there. That's the best part of the movie is that stuff that carries over from the TV show. But I think it also suffers because it carries over from the TV show a lot.
The directors.
This was the first one to be a direct sequel to a TV show. Like, say what you want. WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness did not acknowledge that they existed.
You know what,
Marvel's and Ms. Marvel.
That
You
one
didn't
had
really
a
need to
closer
watch
connection.
Miss Marvel to get it. You needed to get the family humor part of it in that movie, but you didn't really need to watch all of Miss Marvel to get that.
Go ahead, Chris. What were you going to say?
So, I was going to say, I think I had already said this, that I felt like Falcon and Winter Soldier didn't really matter. Yes, you had Isaiah and the new Falcon, but story-wise, I think this movie stood alone from that show.
I agree.
It did, but it didn't. You didn't have a proper introduction for who these people were for Falcon, the new Falcon.
Yeah, I don't think you needed that. I would say I would
for
argue,
Isaiah.
Isaiah, you probably needed an introduction separate from the show. Like having a new Falcon didn't you could have just said, okay, there's a new Falcon, and I would have been like, oh, okay. Like, you don't need to know every little thing that happens.
Yes.
You know,
when Falcon was introduced, when Sam Wilson was introduced, he was introduced with on your left, on your left, on your left. Like, we didn't really get much of Sam Wilson's backstory in his first appearance in a Captain America movie. We got, this is the new person who's going to be helping out, Chris Evans' Captain America, and he's going to wind up the Falcon. Like, that was basically the amount of character building that we got from him in that. At the same time, at least they took the time to say who Isaiah Bradley was and what happened to him and how he was incarcerated and how he was basically the Captain America that time forgot because the government
but they said it
made
so
him that
fast
way.
in the movie that I don't know if people who didn't watch the show would care when that's an incredibly emotional story in the show.
I agree with you. I agree with you entirely.
They say who he is, but like they blink and you miss it. Say who he is.
Yeah, if you spend too much time on a story like that in a movie, it will bog it down. So
part of my whole point is there's too many stories in this movie, though. Like
that, I'll agree with.
There's too many stories. So like pick one. Are we doing the leader in Red Hulk? Are we doing the leader manipulating old man Isaiah Bradley? Right. Like pick one. Those three things, like, to me, they didn't mesh together. And then you throw in Sidewinder, like, it's a lot. There's a lot.
I was sitting there watching that whole Sidewinder thing. I was like, I don't know why he's here.
I honestly,
he's kind of like the Batroc of for Sam's Cap.
With Harrison
was the opening scene, and he was done. Like, that was it.
Yeah, with Harrison Ford as well in this. Somehow we managed to get better Harrison Ford acting than we did in the entire most recent Indiana Jones movie. He asked to be in this movie. Like, he literally seeked them out and was like, I want to be in a Marvel movie. And then when the opening happened for Thunderbolt Ross, that's what wound up happening. And then lo and behold, that's who he wound up taking the role of.
He was strangely like, he didn't phone it in.
No, he didn't.
I was honestly shocked. I was like, wow, everybody's actually acting in this movie.
Yeah, I was fully expecting to feel like he was phoning it in, and lo and behold, he was not. I love the line of I'm still getting used to you looking like that. Yeah, they told me that it was either the presidency or the mustache, and
I love that we saw him in footage and pictures with the mustache.
Yes,
that actually went a long way for me.
That was cursed. That was just like, I just wanted to remind the audience too, just no.
And going back to what Brent said, to at least tie it into what you said about too many plot points, one of the things that reviews of this have said in some ways is that it's as much Incredible Hulk 2 as it is Captain America 4.
It's more Hulk than Cap, and I said that in my last thing. Yeah.
I don't agree with the criticism that, well, Incredible Hulk was so long ago, why are we talking about the Incredible Hulk events? I can understand, okay, granted, you're asking an audience to kind of recall things from from early phase one, but this is the MCU. Aren't we invested in the idea that everything matters when these characters come back?
Yeah, we are.
It's a shared universe. I think that people are turning their criticism towards the fact that the MCU and everything being connected against it, and I think that's dirty. I don't think that that's playing fair in terms of like actually approximating what it is you're criticizing. I mean, if you say, I don't understand the stakes because of the leader because I don't remember him from I can understand that. But if you're saying, why are we doing a sequel to a film this long ago? It's like, well, hold on. Like kind of like define your terms exactly. Is it the length of time? Is it the change in characters? Is it that, or are you just saying I no longer like that I can't remember who's who in what, because it's not that difficult. This isn't the most Byzantine assortment of characters and plot in an MCU film.
No,
today it's very simple.
So so Ian is aware of this. I'll let you guys know. So I've been watching every single James Bond film over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
I just watched GoldenEye last night. Like, I finally reached the movies I had already seen. Like, for the most part, I haven't seen any Bond Pierce Brosnan. It's kind of interesting to talk about it now, talking about Cap. First off, when you say like the plot is really Byzantine, and one of my takeaways from watching the Bond films is how I'm watching it, the Bond starts to get, do his little investigations and he's pulling together the plot, and you're like, oh, that's what the bad guy's doing. That makes perfect sense. And then he digs a little deeper and there's like some added complication. It's like, I'm gonna, sell a bunch of heroin to make the heroin market collapse in the United States. And you're like, well, that tracks. Oh, and I have a bunch of Stinger missiles. And you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
And the Man with the Golden Gun, it was like some sort of like environment thing, but also I have like a Death Raider.
Yeah. But I think it's relevant to the MCU in several ways. One being that James Bond has been doing these ridiculous plots for ages, and I don't, mind you, James Bond movies also get criticism, but I'm not going to say that Marvel's doing something that hasn't been done before. Also, the fact is that James Bond movies don't feel the need to give everybody this deep backstory.
No.
James doesn't get a real backstory, let's be honest. Like Felix Leiter shows up once in a while, and you're like, oh, that's just the dude from the CIA, and he's played by a different actor every fucking time.
There's an actor called Pussy Galore. Okay, anyway.
But what's really fascinating, considering you're saying people are complaining, oh, you expect me to remember something from 17 years ago, which is in 17, and I want to get to that too.
Yeah.
But like watching the Bond movies, it's like Bond meets this woman, what's her name? Teresa, and he gets married to her, and she dies by the end of the movie. And then the next movie, he gets revenge for that. And then it comes up like 2 movies later when he visits her grave, and then it comes up again in License to Kill when they're like, oh yeah, he was married once. And that was
a long time ago.
Yeah, there's no problem with people just remembering these very simple. I think because Bond doesn't have a very complicated backstory, so those little moments stick out. So when people start complaining like, "Oh, you expect me to remember this?" and I'm like, we're not asking that much of you in some aspects here.
Can I go for the cynical part of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why do they have so much Hulk in this movie? Well, it's simple,
Universal
my friends.
Studios.
Exactly. Da, 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 da. Don't want to pay the money. Da, 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 da. They don't want to revenue share with Universal because Universal still has the rights to solo Hulk movies.
Who fucking wrote this contract?
Seriously.
This is the worst contract.
These are the same. I'll say it. These are the same fucking morons that had a perpetual contract made for Florida.
Sony.
Not Sony.
Yeah.
No, the same morons who had a perpetual contract made with Universal and Marvel to have a Marvel rides and Marvel characters at Universal Studios Florida in particular
for like 1,000 miles.
Not Hollywood, Florida,
radius.
which is why Disney World can only have Guardians of the Galaxy because they didn't give a shit about Guardians of the Galaxy and it wasn't in the contract. That's it. Everybody else is stuck at Universal Studios Florida for the perpetual, forever until they buy them out of that contract. Same thing.
And they're not updating the land. They're not allowed to they're not allowed to update it or anything like that.
That's why
it's my least favorite part of this.
That's
movie.
why. But that's also why, there's a I've mentioned this before and I laugh at it every single time. Why there's random artwork of Storm in her purple costume she wore for 3 issues.
Beautiful Adam Kubert artwork.
Yeah, at Universal Studios.
The Spider-Man ride that says that Ned Leeds is the Hobgoblin when that was disproven 30 years ago.
Exactly. But that is why you get significant Hulk stories in movies that are not Hulk movies, like Thor Ragnarok, having basically World War Hulk be inside of that, and similarly why Red Hulk was inside of this. Now, I personally believe that the balance between the two was actually pulled off shockingly well. I would have made a couple of tweaks here and there, but I think it was Harrison Ford's acting that really pulled it all together. And having him be president makes sense in the MCU.
I would argue that this movie does what No Way Home did for Garfield and Maguire.
Absolutely.
Especially
yes.
Garfield. And it gave Ross, the Ross family closure.
Yes. And taking a certain someone out of retirement as Betty, she had just straight up retired from acting. This is the.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is the first role that oh God, why am I blanking on her name now all of a sudden? Because I'm a freaking idiot.
Liv Tyler.
Thank you, Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler.
Yeah, this is the first role that Liv Tyler has been in quite some time. She is basically semi-retired from acting. Marvel approached her on this. They were like, "Look, we want to put a capper on the Incredible Hulk." She had a very good time making that movie. She came back for it. That's why she's only in 2 scenes, but it's enough to really drive home.
the detail that because of how much Ross had fucked with Bruce Banner,
yes,
she never talked to him again.
Oh yeah,
I actually thought you know what, that's an awesome reason to not see her.
And they pulled off a Hulk storyline without actually using Ruffalo.
Well, I wouldn't say that's a good thing.
No. In this situation, honestly, it is, because exactly what Chris said. This was more about what happened because of the Hulk and not necessarily the Hulk. I think that bringing Ruffalo into this would have bogged things down even further and would have just made it a Hulk movie.
I appreciated some lines to explain why he wasn't there, because I watched the How It Should Have Ended, and the How It Should Have Ended was the minute you bring in actual Bruce Banner, the fucking story's over.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, okay. So when Red Hulk turns into Hulk, okay, I have an oath question.
Yes.
All right. So you're a Secret Service agent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, no,
You're doing your job with your back to the president. The president starts freaking out. You're like, hey, radio 1, President Eagle. Eagle is going wrong. What's up with Eagle?
Yeah.
And you get nothing. Turn around. All of a sudden, there's a Red Hulk there looking eerily like the president. And/or some of you guys all around watched the president turn into Red Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Who on the Secret Service detail gave the order to shoot the fucking president immediately? Where's that order? Where's the schemer in the back of the radio wagon going kill the Red Hulk? Sir, that's the president of the United States. So we took an oath to protect him. Kill the motherfucker.
It reminds me, I recently rewatched Superman Batman Public Enemies, and when in the third act when Luthor starts going nuts and Amanda Waller is like, take the president away, I was like, that would never happen. It was because of how awful our timeline is. You just realize that people are not willing to go after the president, even if he kills you, quite frankly. So I thought the exact same thing, because they're trying to kill the guy that they're trying to protect.
Literally, his chief Secret Service agent, who was either the black woman, I don't know the actress's name nor the characters, so that was bad. But I liked her in the movie.
Yeah.
She's like his chief of staff and his chief of security.
Zosha.
She's literally standing there.
Zosha Rockmore is the name. Zosha Rockmore is the name of the actress. Why was
the Iranian woman was chief of security?
No, she was like a tie-in agent, like a special agent on loan from wherever.
Yeah, and an ex Black Widow, which was nice.
She worked for the government, but not as part of the Secret Service detail.
Yeah,
but yeah, literally, his chief of security is like, "I'm protecting the president." Bam, 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 bam.
Protecting the president from himself.
From what?
Well, because you know that it's not really going to kill him. Everyone knows the rules of a Hulk.
I know. I was like, you can stop now. I mean, like unless you think it's a Mysterio illusion, you're just wasting your time.
Shira.
Yeah, where is Batman at this point with all of the solutions for Avengers attacking the president to jump out of that same radio room and be like, hey, we got the Hulk serum here, let's just use it.
Because Tony's dead and his protocols are outdated at this point, essentially. But no, Shira Haas as Ruth Botts Saraf. Excellent poll, by the way. Bringing in a character that is a little bit way more of a side character in Marvel that really hasn't been seen.
She's a contest. She's a contest of champions character. That can tell you all you need to know.
I mean,
you're talking about the Israeli
Sabra.
Black Widow.
Yeah, Sabra is the name of the character, and she's shown up a bunch over the years in sometimes in X-Men comics, sometimes in Avengers comics. Like
she's an X-Men because she's a mutant in the comics.
Correct. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was glad to see her. I was glad that they said that she was Israeli, but that she was like a Black Widow. She trained as a Black Widow, and now she's working. Like it made perfect sense to me. It's just I remember somebody I was reading on Facebook. They were, we loved, since we're going to trash on people complaining about things, they were complaining that like, oh, they won't say she's from Israel because they're anti-Semitic.
What?
This is fucking crazy. Yeah, ever since Gaza, I was like, this movie was made before that, and oh my.
Well, I do remember people bitching loudly before when this movie was first in production when they included that character. Again, a character I never heard of.
Yeah.
Because of like I think there's a panel in the comics where like she's like super Zionist or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really don't know.
And honestly, going back to it, a lot of bad shit's happened in comics over the years.
I mean,
it never stops.
We're all liberal fucking hippies here, but there are conservative.
Who you calling a hippie?
I mean, I think of I also came up in my Facebook memories.
Ian, post that image in the chat. This is Sabra's costume, which I had not seen before.
Yeah,
I don't know how I missed it when they announced her.
This is an
can you
older.
Honestly understand why they didn't?
Well, also that's an older costume.
Older.
Yes, that is not an older.
That was closer. It was closer to original, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
2 Star of David's on her.
Yeah.
I can understand not wanting to avoid any politics right now with that.
I mean, Captain America has an A in the flag, so
That's true. But the movie is called Captain America.
Yeah, since I'm mentioning, because this also came up in my memories when a few years ago they said they were going to have like a gay Captain America in the Pride issue, and conservatives were complaining, and they said that's not brave. It'd be brave to have a conservative Captain America, and my response was like,
read the Ultimates.
Yeah, I was like, the fuck it. First off, Ultimates. Second of all, there is a conservative Captain America, and his name is U.S. Agent.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And he's in Thunderbolts, and he's going to be in Doomsday. So come on.
I'm surprised he was redeemed as much as he was.
Yeah, I know.
You should be happy with what you got.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing.
I say redeemed, but
the other thing in this movie, the whole thing with Commander Dunphy. Good side plot. I actually really appreciate that. Like the guy who was helping out Cap, who was then eventually, taken out by Leader. The only problem is that the entire time, especially whenever I heard his name was Dunphy, it made me think of my poor lost Doc Samson and how that could have easily been Ty Burrell. Like
that would have been so good. It would have been such a small hat tip. It doesn't really take away. Like if you don't know the reference, it's fine. But having Ty Burrell come back would have been a nice little hat tip.
Absolutely. If you're gonna bring back almost everybody else from the original Hulk and you're not gonna use Doc Samson, I'm sad about that. Like, come on, make it happen.
Okay, so one last thing that I have a question about.
Yes.
And this is the other thing of me thinking maybe why the movie didn't work as well for me. Like I thought it was fine. It wasn't terrible. Okay, so Sam Wilson as a character in the Marvel universe, has been largely a comedic character.
Yes.
Right? And then
yes and no.
He had Bucky in his own show to play off of that. Bucky was a straight man and he was fun. They were still investigating stuff, and he had this serious turn of like, I should be Captain America, and became more self-serious and stuff like that. But in terms of a movie-going audience, hear me out. Every time you saw Sam Wilson, he's throwing quips. He's having fun. You've got all this behind-the-scenes footage of Anthony Mackie going, "Cut the check" every time he ends a take, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's a fun dude. I love watching interviews with him. He's very enigmatic, very charismatic. I love him to death. And then you have this movie that comes out, and Captain America's kind of not the funny guy. Now, the Falcon is still the funny guy, but it's not Anthony Mackie's character. It's not Sam Wilson. It's, Ramirez. Or not Ramirez. That's the actor's name. But so I'm just kind of wondering if the whole, attitude switch from movie to movie.
I think it depends on who he's interacting with.
Exactly.
When he's interacting with Falcon, the current Falcon, that is a mentor-mentee relationship, right? But when he's in the scenes with like Bucky, and Bucky is his bro now, they don't hate each other anymore, but they do rib each other. Then he's a little lighter. Like it's entirely a hierarchy thing, I think, in this movie. He has to be serious when he's around certain people. I do feel like he still had funny moments. There are at least 3 lines in this movie that had my theater rolling.
Yeah.
I think 2 of them involve Bucky.
I think I could have used a little bit more of that Sam Wilson humor.
Can I also?
I found Mackie to be like a very capable lead.
I agree.
I maybe you're not wrong in that like he was more serious than he had been in previous Marvel films, but like I never found him to be so self-serious. He wasn't like in a Snyder film or whatever. Like he had quips like I mentioned, like the super serum quip and all kind of stuff. And because he didn't have any powers, I found the action sequences a lot more suspenseful.
It's
like it gets to the point where like Steve Rogers could literally fall off a cliff and be fine. Where like when he's fighting Red Hulk, I told my dad who was watching him with it, like Red Hulk's stronger than Green Hulk, and he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, his power is his empathy.
Yes.
Which is the point the movie is making, and I feel like that was lost on a lot of people. That he defeats Red Hulk by just trying to appeal to his humanity, which has always been Sam Wilson throughout the movies, because that's how he connected to Steve Rogers in the first place. Like, hey, I have this group that meets of like veterans if you want to come and talk about stuff. Like that's always I really like this movie because of that ultimate resolution. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah. Can I also
beat him through Taku no Jitsu?
It's a message we needed today.
Can I point out as well the use of multiple costumes in this movie for very little reason. It just felt like he started out in the Captain America costume that he basically got in Captain America and Winter Soldier. Or Falcon,
got rid of the cowl.
Yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Kept the glasses.
Yeah, because he hated the cowl and he never wanted to be in that again.
Costume.
But Sam Wilson hated in real life that cowl.
No. I get the cowl.
Yeah.
I'm fine with just the glasses, but I liked his look at the beginning of this movie, and then to give him this Steve Rogers-esque blue costume, stealth version, it didn't make any sense.
Which part of me was like, okay, so you're definitely doing this to sell more toys, which I understand.
They could have modified the white version.
Yeah, they could have. I didn't mind it that much. It just felt like it just kind of happened for no reason.
It looked weird. It was just a weird choice.
Had a reason, like here's my assortment of costumes, which is always fun to see. So like, I'm glad I thought it wouldn't be a reason, and so it was kind of like a Batman Begins, Dark Knight suit kind of thing. So I was like, okay, because I like the white costume too. And if he's going to suit up in something different, at least it's because, well, this one's damaged. I need a suit right now. So I was fine.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Always have a spare, I guess. Always have a spare.
Yeah.
But
can I? Are we still talking about the costumes? There's one thing I wanted to bring up before we finish, because I feel like we are starting to wrap up.
Yeah.
The timeline. I was going to segue into this from the leader, because the leader specifically says, you've kept me underground, prisoner for 17 years.
Yes.
Which lines up with with the date of, well, okay. So this is where things get complicated, and I want to be like, what is going on with this timeline? Because the Iron Man came out in 2008, and it's generally assumed that it takes place in 2008.
Yes.
And then Hulk, even though it came out 2008, it's technically supposed to be like a year or 2 years later. Yeah, it's contiguous with Thor and what am I blanking on? What's the other movie that takes place the same week? It's not Cap. Why am I?
No, Iron Man 2.
Oh, it is Iron Man 2. It is the same week. It's all the same week. That's the way Marvel's been promoting it. Is that it was like Coulson's very strange week or very eventful week. I forget what they.
Iron Man 2, Thor, and Hulk all happened like within.
Yeah, they happen at the same time. Yeah, sorry if I didn't mean to brush over you, Dono, there. But the thing is, it aligns. My friend pointed out to me that the invite in the movie, the invite to the White House, has a date of 2027 on it. So, which is fine, because you got to remember that Avengers Infinity War would be, again, contiguous with when it came out, so it was 2018, and then there's the 5-year jump, the 5-year blip, so that Endgame ends in 2023. And they've been kind of fuzzy on like the dates since then.
Yeah.
But it's just getting a little weird, because first of all, like, why are we having a presidential election in 2026?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that they suspended elections during the blip.
That's my nerdy timeline geek thought.
Or that
President like himself was blipped.
Ooh, yeah. That's.
Wait, what did you say, Brent? I didn't hear that clearly.
Same as Dono. President blipped.
President blipped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, the thing is, then it would be the vice president, and then after that, it would be the head of the speaker of the House
They
of
both
Representatives.
blipped.
Well,
The vice president was arrested in Iron Man 3.
Oh, yeah,
and maybe like the he got Spiro Agnew and maybe like the Gerald Ford MCU.
well, no. Then eventually you just get to Kiefer Sutherland.
There is a chain of command there.
Yeah.
My thought is, with half the population gone, then they'll be like, we should probably suspend elections because we don't even have the infrastructure for it right now because we're just like missing a bunch of people. And I'm not ready to talk about, if you do want to segue into it, but it also made me think of like, where the fuck is Daredevil standing in all of this? The current season, not the previous season.
They'll never answer it.
Yeah.
Because they've never answered simpler questions.
Yes.
Yeah. The funny part is that it actually tracks Daredevil also to take place in 2027 because of the election.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and also that slight spoiler. I've only watched one episode of this thing so far. I'm actually currently watching Daredevil ... season 3 of the original Netflix series. I've done 3 episodes of that so far. I'm really enjoying it. I want to watch through that before I watch the current Daredevil Born Again series.
Arguably the best season.
It's way the reason that I stopped watching it was season 2. I was not a big fan of season 2 and the way that they just like had way too many storylines running at once.
It was a mess.
Electro was not nearly as well executed as I wanted her to be. I like the Punisher stuff, but that was like, if the Punisher is the best part of your Daredevil season, you've made a mistake. And that's kind of the way I felt about that. But this 5th episode has a Ms. Marvel mention, so we know that Ms. Marvel definitely...
It's a Marvel commercial.
Yes, basically. Kamala
They need it.
And all that. So we know that's happening concurrently, and that's the same year. So that ties that into that, I guess. I don't know.
Like they're trying to get it kind of back on track, I guess, to bring everything in.
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, as like a timeline nerd, I think it's held up for the most part. The only blip in the whole thing has been Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh God.
Where the Vulture, where the whatever his name is
it was like Avengers to Homecoming. It was 8 years like that. No, it wasn't.
No,
When
it
does
wasn't.
Morbius take place?
Morbius takes place. Shut up. That's when Morbius takes place.
Chris, there is a book, and I know this is like Barnes & Noble. There's a book about the Marvel timeline that Marvel published.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I've never bought it or anything, but mind you, it wouldn't cover right now, like what's happening right now.
Right, exactly.
It goes up to at least Falcon Winter Soldier.
Okay.
So it includes like Black Widow and Shang-Chi.
Okay.
I don't think it includes anything before after like Loki season 2, I think.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but that still gets us pretty close timeline wise as like when things are happening. So
And it gets up to post Endgame.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's still just like messy when you look at like the election schedule is all messed up, and I kind of wish they would just throw a line in there like, oh yeah, we had to reboot the entire election cycle because of the
I'm
blip.
worried about why the Secret Service is shooting the president, and you worried about when the election took place in the Marvel universe.
Danny DeVito's Penguin was like, wait a minute, the mayor election doesn't this take place in this month?
Well, my favorite thing is I'm watching season 3 of Netflix Daredevil. There's literal protests outside of the hotel that everybody knows that Wilson Fisk is a drug runner and a villainous man, and in Born Again he's mayor. That could never happen in real life. I'm just saying.
All right,
Ian, what happened in November? What happened in November?
I'm gonna scream about it right now.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I guess it's.
Worst things have happened.
I don't know how much of a spoil. Okay, this can't. Ian, this is not a major spoiler. This is.
This is
My headphones are off. Just say it.
No, it's the Kingpin thing.
Okay.
Okay. Spoilers, but he's beaten at the end of season 3. I don't think that's a big thing. They don't explain why he's running around in these Netflix shows or in these Disney shows. Like in Hawkeye, I didn't watch Echo, but I don't think I've missed anything in Echo. And then this one, it's like they know he's a Kingpin, but they don't. Why is he like walking around and he's not like in Rikers or something?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Like that because it was a big deal, and specifically like Vanessa's going on about like like you were away. It's just like
Ian took his headphones out, so he doesn't fucking care.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, give me a thumbs up when I can come back. Keep talking by all means.
Okay,
We'll change the
I was
subject.
going to say, yeah. I'm annoyed that there's this constant refrain of Vanessa saying, "Wilson, you were away, and I'm not alone. You were away." It's like, okay, either you forgot he was in prison, which, you were there. It was your
Yeah.
wedding day, or the people who are running Born Again did not watch that show.
Well, okay, but here's the thing, and I mean, again, I've only watched one episode so far. I know that there were major behind the scenes changes that happened in Daredevil Born Again to the point where the original actress that played Vanessa was not going to be back as Vanessa originally.
Really?
They had gotten an entirely new actress to play the part. Then the delay happened due to the directors and writer strikes, and that was when they essentially went back and they reassessed Born Again and how it was going, and they're like, we don't like the way that this is working. We need to make changes. We need to make this. We need to make this actually make sense for the show that we want to tell. And that's also when they lowered the amount of episodes that were originally ordered to try to make a tighter story. But anyway,
It's only like 20, I think, originally.
yeah.
It feels like, speaking of, I've only seen the first 4 of Born Again. I won't get into spoilers.
Yeah.
It feels like they took that original concept, that show. There's got to be footage that they shot.
Yeah.
And rejiggered it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They added new Vanessa. They got rid of old Vanessa and got old Vanessa back, right? With the original actress. And they rewrote those scenes. And there's new context around the things that are going on. But I feel like, especially since the actor who plays White Tiger passed away 2 years ago when this thing was originally filmed.
Mm-hmm.
No, not a spoiler. The actor did pass.
Yeah.
That all that stuff is still, that's got to be the original show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? The day-to-day Law and Order procedural.
Yeah,
And
they
they're just
definitely are still using it.
They cut it up and they put it apart and they put it back together, and it's not like, it doesn't feel like they wiped everything away and started over.
They couldn't.
They're like,
They couldn't.
we can still use some of these things.
Yeah,
okay.
and they did. Like I from what I've heard from interviews that were even conducted is that they took the basic bones of what had already been set, and then they created something that they were happier with,
I think they used what
including
was shot.
Well,
that's really the truth of it, and I should say that.
Well, but to the
that
point,
really reflects the reality.
The
Like, they didn't
original
reshoot that guy's scenes, he was gone.
Oh no, I know that. I know
You know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm certain that whatever episode 5 you guys watched today, that's a standalone episode.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that that's probably an episode that they did not touch at all unless Fisk is in it. Right?
I would agree with you because he is not in it. So that's something they probably were able to reuse. And I guarantee you, full episodes they were probably able to use. However, one thing that definitely got changed because originally, they asked Punisher to come back. Like they asked him to come back, and
he said no originally.
And he said no originally based on what they were going to do with the character. That John Bernthal was like, nah, this isn't going to work. And
specifically because of like what they were doing, which I have no idea what that would have been.
Exactly. Yeah. Until John Bernthal talks about it on his podcast, like I guarantee you he will eventually. Then we're not really going to know. But it seemed like he wasn't the only unhappy one. Charlie Cox had mentioned that the direction change worked for him better personally. Vincent D'Onofrio was happy with the reshoots. At least they're saying that publicly. But it also brought Deborah Ann Wall back into the fray, and it brought at least Foggy back into the story. So that says a lot. Yes, I know something happens. I'm not going to say what. All right, but nonetheless, like. There were going to be loose ties to the originally, and they really tightened those ties as much as they could with the new stuff that they filmed, and I appreciate that.
One thing they
bullshit
really
that they were playing around. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, briefly. It's like the idea that like this new version that they were originally filming wasn't connected to the Netflix show.
Yeah, no.
Do they understand why people watch things from beloved characters? Like, do they? This isn't DC. You can't do that.
Let me just piggyback off that real quick, Dono, and say that I think what really turned that around was adding the Netflix stuff to Disney Plus and it getting numbers. Like they originally, like they were off to the side. It was like an other category, where like these are series that we are finally able to add to Disney Plus, but like watch them if you want. They're not going to matter. But they got really good streaming numbers from what I saw, and it's because people cared about these shows. There's a reason why the Netflix shows catapulted. Basically, the reason why we have MCU stuff on Disney Plus is because of the Netflix stuff to begin with. So
I understand, because that's the reason why they were made, to be part of the MCU.
But it's very executive. It's very executive to say, we could just work with what we have. We're the MCU as it is now. Nobody's going to care about what came before, but what we care about is continuity. We were just talking about that. Not everybody's going to give a shit, but those of us who are going to give a shit are really going to give a shit.
This is not a spoiler. In episode 1 of Born Again, when Kingpin for mayor, that's an idea. People say, I heard that in season 1 of Daredevil, he cut a guy's head off with the car door. Yeah. That's awesome. I'll vote for him. Yeah. It's like that's explicitly referencing the Netflix show.
Yeah.
Which I guess is like a recent reshoot thing.
Mm-hmm. Any of those BB specials could be reshoots or add-ins.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that they are.
Oh yeah, well,
very
absolutely. But also, like, when it comes down to it, unless you're J. Jonah Jameson, unless you're J.K. Simmons, and you can exist in every single universe, if you are going to literally cast the same actor as the character in the MCU, and again, other than J. Jonah Jameson, he could be 18 variants of J. Jonah Jameson. I don't care. He's a side character. It's funny to have J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in every single universe. I love that. But if you are going to cast Charlie Cox as Daredevil in the MCU, you have to reference the Netflix shows, period. That's it. It can't be, that happened, and here's Charlie Cox as an entirely new Daredevil. Like, I don't care, multiverse, that would have just made no sense. It's so stupid. And I'm glad that they chose not to do that in the end.
And it's fun to realize that, like, he's also in coherence with the She-Hulk version of Daredevil.
Absolutely.
And the Echo version of Daredevil.
100%.
Like, this is the same character because you want him to be, and he is.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Brent.
One thing they really tied back to the old Daredevil show, which I fucking hate. This is my rant earlier. It's not having Daredevil in the costume. Season 1, Daredevil in the black.
Yeah.
Until the last episode, he gets the red suit. Mm-hmm. Season 2, hey, you get the suit. Mm-hmm. Season 3, we'll give you a reason for him not to be in the suit. You can't be in the suit because you got, I don't know if Ian's this far, there's another Daredevil that they're running around. So you can wear the black suit.
Look at him, Stevie Wonder all over.
All right, I'm good.
So Daredevil in the black suit all of season 3. It's like, and then you got season 4, and he's like, I don't want to be Daredevil. And it's like, didn't we do that last season?
Well, first off, the character is called the Hood, not Arrow. And second off, I know they do that way too much.
Like, I think it's a sophisticated adult, and it's like, yo, come on, man! Like, you're doing a comic book show.
Yeah.
Keep watching, Brent. But I did that. That's so. I think Born Again is entirely carried by Charlie Cox.
Of course.
I can't yell enough. I said this when we reviewed season 1, and with Chris Johnson years ago when it first came out.
Yeah.
I think Charlie Cox is like top 2 of all time comic book casting.
Oh, no question.
As
Absolutely.
Matt Murdock.
Absolutely.
I'm not playing. Like, he's better. I think Vincent D'Onofrio gets most of the spotlight in terms of like plaudits for casting and acting for this show. Charlie Cox is like, to me, he's like better than Chris Evans as Captain America.
You know who's in my top 5, Dono? Mike Coulter. I think Mike Coulter is as Luke Cage is damn high up there too. Yeah.
I want to see him back.
I know.
So I mean, this isn't a spoiler or anything. No, I have a question about. It's more of a comic book question than a TV show question. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I like how the Daredevil show definitely leans on Matt's Catholicism.
Yes,
because that is essential to the character.
Absolutely.
And then I was thinking about like other character, like I know the religion, like the faith of certain characters. Like I know Ben Grimm is Jewish, Kitty Pryde is Jewish,
Bar Mitzvah issue, baby, love that issue.
Is
you don't,
Muslim.
But you don't see them going to service as much as you see
that's
Matt Murdock.
What it is. It's like Matt Murdock and Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler, are the two characters who show the most religious devotion.
Yes.
I feel like, and they're both Catholic. I think are there any other characters that show that level of devotion?
You know, I hate to say it, and you'll laugh because I said it. Sabra, clearly. No.
The Star of David's on every costume I've found.
No. To 100% say it, I agree entirely. There really are not a lot of other characters, but somebody who I would put up there, Kamala Khan. I think that the way that Kamala is written in the comics, you know, you don't see her in a mosque, you know, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I admit I've read the comic and I didn't think of it at first, but the fact is that, especially in the original run, G. Willow Wilson tried to put some like Islamic. I don't know what the word I want to use is, doctrine, dogma, like, because it has such a bad connotation in today's world.
There's like an intro to Islam a little bit, or not an intro, but an introduction if you don't know anything about it in that first volume.
Well,
I read the first like 24 issues. They're good.
Yeah, it's less about I'm talking about less about introducing people to the faith so much as personifying what that faith is supposed to mean.
Yes, day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
and her initial hallucination was kind of like the basis was in religion, like when she first hallucinates Carol Danvers and stuff in that first issue.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So I will say, I think the Catholic thing works. Having grown up Catholic myself, it works because I don't know if there's any other religion, not knowing much about any other major religion also, that has a rite, a ritual, the way that Catholicism has the act of contrition, of going to confession. You know, I don't know much about Judaism or Islam in terms of, you know, sins and things like that and being forgiven, but Catholicism is really ingrained. You know, second grade, you get your first communion, but before then you get your first confession, where you have to go down in front of the priest and do the ritual. Father, forgive me, I have sinned. I've done this, and this.
Catholic guilt, baby.
Yeah. They tell you go say the act of contrition, you know, 4 Hail Marys, 5 Our Fathers, and your sins are forgiven. And you go out and do it. So it's a really wrenching tool for superheroes to battle with their inner conflict.
Yes.
And that may be why it's so used in Daredevil, because it is such an interesting thing of, I don't have to have an inner monologue with Matt. I can just send him to church.
Right. And Ben Grimm, I think, is probably the closest when it comes to Judaism in comics. You don't see him at Temple all the time, but there have been issues where it's happened. There is, as I was saying, the famous Bar Mitzvah issue that of the Thing comic that is awesome, and we also meet through members of his family. We get closer to Ben's faith in the comics as well. But yes. Daredevil is definitely
Daredevil going to church is a trope.
Yes,
but more than other comics characters, and even
that's the
other
first
media
scene of the Netflix show, which is a great introduction scene.
The biggest sin,
even in other media, there's not a bunch of tropes about other religions as much as there is about Catholicism and confession.
Well, and the biggest sin though that I feel like comics made was when they fucked with Nightcrawler. Where like he was never really a priest. It turns out it was some sort of like, you know, evil devil thing making him think he was or something like. There was some weird shit with Nightcrawler where like it wasn't a real church he was a part of. Like it was actually like some sort of like secret cult that he didn't know about. Like it was weird shit. This was years ago though, so like I mean they
Chuck Austin.
Yeah, I think it was the Chuck Austin run. To be honest,
I was about to blame Chuck Austin or Peter Milligan.
If it wasn't Chuck Austin, it was around that time, and mind you, like Marvel as a whole had a lot of problems.
Oh, absolutely, abso-freaking-lutely, yeah. But
Akira Yoshida.
All right, well, the super observant of you are probably wondering why I suddenly changed shirts and why my hair probably looks a little bit different. It all depends on how I part it, you know, that sort of thing. And those of you listening on audio are not noticing any of that because it's audio. This is being recorded the day after we recorded this entire podcasting session, which wound up being about a solid 3+ hours, and I am going to go ahead and call it here. This ends this part of the conversation pretty well, and then next episode, early next week, I'll go ahead and release that, and that will have a conversation that we discussed Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men run. We also went into a fascinating conversation on what makes artwork today modern in the eyes of the youths. I kept saying youths, so I'll just say youths here again. And what makes it modern for us as well, in comparison to older comic book art and stuff like that. So we get pretty deep into that, and then we do some recent reads to go ahead and close things out. So yeah, this is a good point as any to break that stuff off. Obviously, you can find Brent over at BK's Bullets. You can find Donovan at his Questions We Don't Have Answers podcast, which, as he said on this episode, very recently did some Star Wars conversation. That's at qnoanswers.com. And you can find Chris's stuff all over the interwebs, but for the most part, you will find her at either her Linktree, which would be linktree.e/Chris Nautis, or at Blue Sky, and we're all on Blue Sky for that matter. Donovan, Brent, myself, and Chris, you'll find us all at Blue Sky as well, because that's where most of us live on the internet these days, and you'll have their real full endings on next episode. So for now, I get to do some credits, because I'm the guy who does that. Like, have you noticed? Email address for Comic Timing is comictiming@gmail.com. Facebook.com/Comic Timing is where you can find our Facebook stuff. And you can also find the Comic Timing fan group there as well. Love to get some comments on the show there, and also just general conversation about comics. I've been thinking about possibly branching out on conversation as well. I mentioned that next episode. Stay tuned for more information on that, as it's a process, so we'll see what we can do. We are, of course, on Instagram as Comic Timing Podcast. We're on Threads as Comic Timing Podcast. And we're on Blue Sky as just straight up Comic Timing, because we joined fast enough to make that happen. And, of course, we are on YouTube at Comic Timing Podcast. If you want to see our faces, if you want to see some shared images, that's a great place to watch episodes. And please, if you have not subscribed to the show, do so. For that matter, if you want to just watch it in the background, just to give us some extra view times, please, by all means. But subscribe if you haven't already done so. It's a good place to do it. Want to thank everybody once again for joining us for this episode. Chris, Donovan, Brent, and of course you, the listeners. And as always, there's always time for comics. I went way longer in this. I don't usually get to this part of the ending. Let's listen to the music a little bit. All right, now we'll end it. Once again, there's always time for comics.